Good evening and welcome to The Uncomfortable Truth. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Sammy boy, how are you?
It's been a long week. It's been kind of a depressing week, but like we move.
We
Yeah,
move. Has
what
this
about you?
anything to do with penalties?
We don't talk about penalties anymore. We don't. We back years ago when I used to see a player like Van der Sar save three in a row. Now I'm seeing keepers can't even save 6, 7, 8, 9. Like, it's bad right now. It's bad.
Yeah, it's going to be Champions League or bust, isn't it, for Man
Yeah,
United? But
at this point.
we have AFCON. We have AFCON, so that's gonna be interesting. We'll definitely do a live react to that as and when. But tonight's episode,
Mm,
we want to get straight into it.
mm.
This has been a heavily discussed topic, and I know this has been discussed on the socials like Discord, and
Yeah,
it's been a very popular one. And this is Harry Kane. It seems very, very divisive. This subject, some people think he's absolutely brilliant, and they can refer to certain things which we'll discuss in the show. But there's a lot of people who actually feel that he's very, very overrated. Now, I want to put this in sort of context, probably overrated from a world-class point of view.
mm,
I think for someone to just say Harry Kane is utterly shit, I think is probably just a bit of a
yes.
ridiculous debate. But the way that he is talked about, certainly in the media, in terms of the Premier League, he is kind of talked about in a way that is like, he's on par with a Karim Benzema, a
Yeah.
Lewandowski. And this is where perhaps the debate then comes in, because it's, well, what has he done compared to those guys? And this is
Yeah.
what the show's going to be exploring, because we've got to look at all sides of the arguments here.
Mm,
We've got to look at the individual brilliance,
yeah.
team, etc. Country, which he has been very, very good for. So I think we need to have a proper discussion. And guys, this is going to be a live call-in, so don't forget to click the link below, because as I said, there's a lot of people who they're quite passionate when it comes to this Harry Kane debate. As I said, I've been on the
Yeah.
socials, on the ministry socials. There have been other ones where people have had 2 or 3 hour debates about this guy.
Yeah.
So bring that energy onto here, because this could be quite a fun show, especially if there's a proper for and against. But
Mm.
Sam, what are your thoughts, Harry Kane overall?
So as a individual player, you have to give him his credit. Like, he didn't like the guy last season was top goal scorer and top assister. That's just
Mm,
unreasonable to act like, and the way he's been playing for the past, like, almost near up to a decade now, has just been outstanding. Been one of the top performers in Europe. However, what does that mean when you haven't won anything? Because there have been lots of players that have been amazing talents, amazing numbers, amazing playing styles, performances. But if you don't win any trophies, what does that like? What does that really amount to?
mm,
In my opinion, I think, like, yes, you can put him on like a high level, but for me, he's not on that same level as like a Benzema or Ronaldo or Messi. The one that he even said he wanted to be. He said he wanted to be on that level in that sort of documentary. And I think he himself even knows he can't be on that level without
mm.
having won something. And it's just like it's unfortunate to him. And for someone that's tried to be like the captain and tried to be like the guy, but whenever the pressure's on, he seems to kind of crumble. And it's just like, well, you're a great player, but you can't just get numbers. You have to also back up with trophies as well.
Yeah, I think that's a fair summary, quite fairly balanced. But for me, I think he's a brilliant player.
Mm,
Let's look at football in its essence. Let's look at what strikers are about, what they're paid to do. They're there to score goals.
mm,
Let's get to the facts of where Harry Kane is currently standing. He is the third best or highest goal scorer for England.
mm,
Now, unless something incredibly unfortunate happens with regards to his career, he's going to be certainly the second, and probably quite quickly
number
the
one. Yeah,
all-time. You know, he's on 48 goals, so level with Gary Lineker. Only one more to get past, well, actually match Bobby Charlton.
yeah.
And then from that, you're only 4 goals away from Wayne Rooney.
Could literally be done in the next in the next break in March for him.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Like, you see, all of a sudden, you're England's greatest ever goal scorer. Now, in terms of the Premier League, because one thing it cannot be in any way, shape, or form in dispute is his goal scoring ability.
Oh
This
yeah,
guy is
definitely.
already 7th, is in the best Premier League goal scorer, one behind who was considered one of the greatest forwards in the Prem, Thierry Henry.
Yeah.
And if you actually look at the goal to game ratio, not that dissimilar, at all. And for me, I'm thinking, well, if people want to say Thierry Henry is world class,
Yeah.
and he's one of the greatest ever, and they give him flowers, why is it that it's so difficult to give Harry Kane those flowers? Now, you touched upon the thing, what's he won?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I feel fans here contradict themselves slightly, because we're in a day and age where everything's about profile, isn't it?
Mm.
You know, it's about the PR. We've looked at people like Haaland, your Sancho's, who
Mm.
you might think about their brand. You know, I can get from this club, and then I can then go up the next ladder to this club, and then so on and so forth.
Mm.
And we've been quite critical of those players in the fact that there's no loyalty. You know, you want to see a player be at your club for as long as possible, not
Mm.
2 years, do well, and then, you know, sod off to what is flavour of the month or the next best thing. So say, for
Yeah.
example, if a Haaland, maybe even if Sancho had you know, a brilliant start at United, you know, 2-3 years time, do they start looking at Real Madrid and Barcelona, and then you've got all the issues that come around with it?
Yeah.
Now, Harry Kane has spent a number of years at Tottenham,
Yeah.
a number of years. So why should we be penalising him for what was essentially loyalty? Now, I know that was up for debate this summer, but why is it that him as a player should be seen in a poorer light because he's just stayed at Spurs? Now, you know, could you argue? I know Lewandowski won something at Dortmund,
Yeah.
but would he have won any more in Germany if he stayed there? Well, no. Would he have got as many goals for
Yeah.
Dortmund? You know, the same argument could be had for Karim Benzema. Again, I know he won something at Lyon. Lyon are quite a prolific team there, but would he have got the goals? Would he have got the reputation compared to being at Real Madrid?
Mm.
And that's the thing. You know, it's just, is it a bit unfortunate that he just happened to go through the Spurs academy? Do you know what I mean? Like, there was connections all very much
Yeah.
in the past, whereas connections to Arsenal, well, maybe could have been different. But
Mm.
I don't know. I think we're quite harsh to always kind of criticize players for actually sticking by their club. Like, you know, case in point, I know we're going talking about a different player, but Declan Rice. Declan Rice decided to stay at West Ham all his career. Chances are he probably isn't going to be getting lots of trophies or any
Yeah.
trophies at all.
Yeah.
But does that mean that he's not a great defensive midfielder? Well, okay, you know what I mean. So we should be. I feel like we should probably look a little bit more into the detail when it comes to it.
Mm. No, I understand you there, but with Spurs, we're not going to act like Spurs haven't been in the positions to win trophies. Like, like there was a point where they were one of like they were going to win the Premier League,
Mm.
and then they just couldn't get there. And there was a time where they made the Champions League final, and like to be fair, that Liverpool team was just on fire for that period. It was going to be very very hard to stop them, but like that was part of it. And yeah, the Carabao Cup, when you obviously came up against a really strong Man City and couldn't do it.
Well,
Yeah, but then even then, we can even go into like the World Cup,
mm,
the World Cup semi-finals. He couldn't really, he failed to get England over the line, and people always say the crucial moment he didn't pass it to Sterling, like and
mm,
stuff like that. Yeah. The Euros final, they'd gone so far, and then granted, you could give him some form of caveat there because the whole of England just like went super defensive. No one was actually trying to get to bag another goal. But
well,
like he's supposed to be that guy that steps up, gets that goal, and gets that assist, or gets that thing, or does, or not even just them, just like does the thing to get his team over the line. And I've seen players like Vardy at Leicester, who you can't like Leicester when are not even on the same level as Spurs. They were fighting
mm,
relegation, and he
yeah,
won a Premier League. And
yeah.
like you're trying to tell me Kane couldn't like get even a Carabao Cup? Like,
Well, we're seeing it here. I'm just looking at the comments. There's a lot of shade being thrown around this guy. So no trophy Kane from Killer. M9 Shackett saying Larry Lane. And
wow.
this was going to be the whole thing. Harry Kane, is he Hurricane that we've heard a number of times, during his England career, or Larry Lane taking the L's? And it seems to be quite fashionable at the moment to say that actually this guy isn't that particularly good. I think probably this season, in terms of his usual standards, probably hasn't helped. But then
Mm.
just past halfway, and the guy's already he's got 15 goals.
Yeah.
So you could argue he's actually on course to get another 30 goals for the season.
Mm.
So again, it's like, well, how bad is this? We're seeing Larry Lane. All I see are L's flying around.
What I'm just seeing is L.
It's yeah.
Like,
Well, I'll tell you what though, but it's great. I'm seeing great interaction here, and it's some really really good banter. I'm seeing a lot of L comments. If you are a fan of Harry Kane, come on, Tottenham Hotspur fans. I forgetting the summer, because I appreciate that the relationship has perhaps been a bit
yeah.
strained since then. But as a player, come on, what are your thoughts on it? He must have been doing something good. This is the seventh top Premier League goal scorer. And you think about all the greats that we've had in terms of strikers or top scorer midfielders. This
Mm.
guy has done it, and he's done it in a decent amount of games. As I said, his stats are actually fairly similar to Thierry Henry,
Yeah.
someone who was considered the greatest from a Premier League perspective. Get on the phone now and literally call us and have the debate. Like, support your man. He's your guy.
Mm. I would say though that Thierry Henry is a bit of a different player though. That guy could do things Kane would only ever dream of. And like
But
you
what is
could
but
actually
Sam?
you could
Come on, Sam.
but the
But what is
comparison
football?
makes sense
But what is
though.
football? What is football in its essence though? When it comes to being a striker, it's getting the ball in the
Yeah,
back of the net.
getting a goal. Yeah. I was gonna actually say though, the criticism we do give Harry Kane, you could argue some of that criticism can be put on Thierry Henry because he's had those moments that like in finals and stuff like that where he's failed to show up just like Harry Kane. Like I
Mm,
think he's been in like 9 finals, 0 goals, I think 0 assists as well.
mm,
So it's like different, but the only difference is other players in his team were able to step up and get him over the line, and also he's had like in a league, it's not quite the same. You can't. It's not determined on one match. You can also like recover in the next match and stuff like that. But like you could like there is something to say that maybe Kane's criticism is sometimes a bit unbiased, but I still just generally think like no trophies in a in a in one of the most impressive looking England sides, not in terms of the players, but in terms of what they've done.
yeah,
Like that, and then that Spurs side that was a very good squad. You had the Belgian barrier, Danny Rose on form, Kyle Walker, Musa Dembele,
yeah, yeah.
like
Okay,
Son Ericsson.
which is fair enough, and that's a fair point. But why is he getting that particular criticism? Should that not go down? Should that not be the manager at this point, which is Pochettino? I imagine that you're talking about the Pochettino team back then, who
Mm,
essentially bottled, if you want to say that word, the title when Leicester won it.
Yeah.
I know you talk about the Champions League run and when they got to the final, and actually a big part of that wasn't actually down to Harry Kane. It was down to Son and Lucas Moura.
Yeah.
You know, Lucas Moura was the one who was victim and didn't actually even get to start when his clutch moments,
Yeah, got them there.
both for City and City game and Ajax, you know, was the difference. You can actually argue as well, Dele Alli, with the deft touches that he had to, and you know, the assists, you know, were the reasons. Now, yes, okay, Harry Kane was injured. Was he at his full fitness? No, probably not. And it showed in that Liverpool final.
Definitely.
But again, is that down to a manager just not having the balls to make the tough decision? See, for me, and it's all benefit and hindsight, but actually, I say it's benefit of hindsight because we're having a conversation now. But at the time,
even then, you could have said,
I would have had Kane as a sub, and I would have sold it saying, look, you aren't fully fit, but you know what? This is going to be a tight game, and with 20 minutes to go, you're going to be that guy who gets the winner. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You think about that trophy. No, because it doesn't matter if he comes on for 20 minutes. If he gets the winning goal,
then no one cares.
The PR, the PR.
Literally, what should have been done to Kane happened to Origi. Origi came on as a sub with 20 minutes to go and scored the second goal and sealed it, which is like absolutely insane. Yeah, but with like, I understand that there's stuff with him being injured and stuff, etc., and like on managers' faults and stuff like that. I understand that can be like used as a excuse or a reason. But the thing is about these top players, when I'm talking about like the top, like the players he wants to be compared to, stuff like injuries and stuff like that, and like managers and stuff like that, they don't use them as an excuse, as in like if you look at certain players, like even if the game is going awfully, they will just like it's a final and your team's down bad, like no excuses, no nonsense. We'll pick up the ball and make something happen. Like a big example is even like Rooney. Rooney, like the guy went off at half time with a metatarsal injury. They made him a special boot. He strapped himself back up. He came on and was good. He wins the game. Like that's the kind of player he wants to be. But I don't think as of yet he's kind of shown that same like moments that the other players have had.
Yeah, no, he's a good point. So I'm seeing so much interaction here on the live chats, which is great, guys. Keep it going. This is ultimately why we do this, is for the fan engagement. You know, we've actually got a call in the background that we'll go to in a couple of minutes. But the question I want to ask you, and this is the question that I wanted, you know, I want the ministry to post on the socials, you know, especially on Twitter and Discord. If you had the chance to get Harry Kane, would you have him at your club? If he's as bad as people say, and I'm seeing the L's and the Larry Lanes, and you know he's won no trophies. If he was available for your club, would you take him? And it's a simple yes or no. You know what I mean? Let me know your thoughts. I want to see it in the live comments. I want to see it on Twitter. Let's have this debate. Because it'll be very interesting to, if anything, I want to hear the people who'd say no. Who'd say no, and they're going to stick by this narrative that he's not a particularly good player. If anything, I'd love for you to call in and let's have this discussion. But Sam, let's get the first caller on. Arjan, how are you?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
We can hear you perfectly well.
Thank you for having me on the show. So your answer to your question, that would I have him at Manchester United? Absolutely yes. Like because I can see what he would do for a club. Because if you see how Cavani played for us, and then even though he has played less games, but you see how a proper striker plays, and how it's important, the way he moves and gets you the goals and assists and stuff like that. But the same thing is with Harry Kane. uh, Last season Tottenham was struggling in the Premier League, but he still ended up with the most assists and the top goal scorer. And he has scored. What is the job of a goal scorer? To score a goal. Now, if his team doesn't win a trophy, it's on the team, it's on the club, it's not on him. He has won individual trophies.
Mm.
He has won the individual things, and that's his thing to go off. And look at how Chelsea is struggling now with a lack of a potent striker. Like Lukaku has not been
Yeah.
firing on all cylinders, but whereas Kane comes in, he's a different type of striker. He comes deep to get the ball. He's good with header. He is good with first time shots. So you have a complete, striker in there. And why won't you consider him as a great player? Unless I know he has not won anything with the England squad too, but he is a good goal scorer, and that's what a good striker should be doing. And I
Mm.
think him being an Englishman puts him under a lot of pressure. If he was, let's say, a German player, I don't think he would be going through so much scrutiny. I think he would have some leeway. And, if he was playing in Bayern Munich and some place else, people would be like, he's a great striker with the stats that he has pulled up in these
Mm.
recent years. So I think the English tax also haunts him a bit. And his controversy in the summer, also made people angry against him. That's my
Do,
thing.
do you think there's two things from there? Just quickly, if you're right to just put yourself on mute, Arjun. Thanks. So there's 2 points you raised there, some really good points. For me, you touched upon this English tax. Do you think there is a bit of a vicious circle when it comes to this English player, where you perhaps see him seen as the golden child of English football? I think there's like maybe him and Jack Grealish are heavily respected, which then creates an overreaction on the other way, where people go, well, hang on, why does he keep getting protected and all these flowers for for essentially doing his job? Do you think that's what that perhaps is, or do you think it's just tribal football gone mad? Because you got all the rivals, you have the Arsenal fans, you got the Chelsea fans, maybe Liverpool United fans who want to banter Spurs, because let's be honest, when it comes to Tottenham Hotspur, when you have phrases like Spursy, because they have done it a number of times. They've had great squads and have done incredible things, but then they've done absolutely stupid things. Like how is it that a team like Spurs in the Conference League are out?
Because
You had Mourinho, not Mourinho, sorry. You had Nuno, and then you had Conte. Well, they had Mourinho, and that cocked up. But they had Nuno and they had Conte. And even with Conte being coached, they still went out. They still crashed out. Now, the last game was unfortunate.
Yeah, but they
it should
shouldn't
never
have
got
been
to
in that
last game.
position. They should have never been in that position.
They were favourites. You know what? As a football fan, I'll put my hands up here. Spurs and Roma were the only teams I really recognised in that Conference League. I couldn't really tell you much beyond that. And I thought, well, these must be the favourites.
Maybe Rennes? Is Rennes in?
Yes, yeah, no, yeah, you are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. But you couldn't really look past those two.
Yeah.
And then you're thinking Conte and Spurs, and they still go out. They still go out.
Even in that first game, they were struggling against. I don't remember that team.
Yeah.
Who were they even facing? That they were now struggling, and like it was like they were close to lose it. Like I remember, and there was like 3 red cards. It was one of the wildest games I've ever seen, and they were struggling against like a really really poor side. And I'm like, even look at last season, that your Europa League game. Like you had a guy, what's his name, Orsic, who like the guy comes in, like the guy hasn't even like he's never won anything like significant. The manager, like everyone says about the manager of the club, the manager was in jail. He was in prison for whatever he was doing there.
Yeah.
So they didn't even have a manager. He was doing tactics on his one phone call, and then the guy comes in and scores a hat trick and knocks out Spurs. Like
I think we've lost Arjun, but yeah,
Um,
Arjun, if you are listening, thank you for that call.
there's just something of
Good
just like
points.
there's just something of like stepping, like that's not even like a big team to step up against. It's just a big moment. Like
Mm.
you just have to like sometimes it's just getting the job done when it's needed to be done. And like, come on, like no one can tell me any apart from that player. I don't think anyone knows any other player from that starting 11 or from the bench or in that club at all.
No.
And some unknown person has shown more balls than Kane. That's basically what we've established in that match.
But the funny thing is, if Spurs, if Daniel Levy accepted that transfer fee, was it 100 to 130 million? I think it was quoted
Something like
130
that.
million if you believe the rumours. If that have happened, Harry Kane would be on the path of a Premier League. And that's the thing, you know, Man City, one of the best clubs in the country, were prepared to throw down, well, best clubs in Europe, were prepared to throw down 130 mil for this player. Doesn't that in itself tell you everything you need to know?
Not really, because like we've even had a conversation about it a few episodes ago about like the transfer market and it just being like overblown. Like a lot of transfers that are really expensive, like
But
have they even
he would be
like been
expensive. Like this, come on, Sam. This isn't some, you know, flavor of the month type individual. This is a guy who, going back from 2015, I'll read it out here. So 2015, 31 goals. 2016, 28 goals. 17, 35 goals. 18, 41 goals. 19, he got 19 goals, which I think that was a big injury season. 24 goals, and then last season he got 33 goals. He's always been one of Europe's top strikers. Now, you look at the best strikers going. So you've got Ronaldo and Messi.
Yeah.
Okay, the Messi situation was slightly different because of the Barcelona finances.
Yeah.
You could actually probably argue that the Ronaldo situation was due to Juventus's finances. But
Partly.
these players are still really 100 million plus players. And then you go away from that. So who have you got? Kylian Mbappe. Well, the only reason why anyone's able to afford him is because he's now going on a free transfer.
Yeah.
But look what Real Madrid tried to do in terms of the bid last year.
Yeah, I think they tried to put like 150, like upwards of that, just to like try. Yeah, but this is Mbappe. Like, I'm no offense to Kane.
Haaland.
Mbappe is the thing is with Haaland, you could also put that same criticism that you've put on Kane. I know Haaland's career is just starting and he's not actually that far in yet. But one, he's younger, but also like in certain moments, in certain games, Haaland has been shown to like kind of disappear, and you're like, what's going on? Like you're this supposed to be this lethal striker, and then like and then you've just disappeared against Man City. That City game. I'm seeing Jude Bellingham go in and score a goal, and then try and get another one and get chalked off for like the dumbest foul, and then Haaland's nowhere to be seen. Like just like big, as in like I haven't seen that much to even to justify his price tag.
But the reality is, if it wasn't for his release clause, this rumored 60 odd million, he would be going for 100 plus million. It's all these little caveats that are stopping these big transfers. Do you honestly think PSG would let Kylian Mbappe go for less than probably two? No, exactly. But that's what I'm saying. So when you actually look at the best strikers in the world, yeah, it's going to cost that. It's going to cost that. And it's to be honest, it's an extremely fair price. It was just Spurs, well, Daniel Levy in his case, just perhaps being a bit too greedy because what's the outcome? Is he going to see that 130 million pounds again? No. Are Spurs likely to get into the Champions League? There's a chance, but probably not. Is that really anything different from Spurs? No. I think they had their moment in the Champions League. I kind of look at them now as a Europa League team. So that 130 million, where they could have reinvested that. You know, they could have pushed if they really wanted to get a Lautaro Martinez. Do you know what I mean? You know, that really good forward that enables others. Having him alongside Son, maybe another striker, but someone who is clinical in terms of scoring. It could happen, but they got greedy, and actually, it's probably been a bit of a icky Spurs season, or maybe it's a typical Spurs season. But considering they're supposed to be this high flying team now, it's not panning out that way.
But then also like he kind of like I get why Levy put him was quite stubborn, because like he wants to get the value that he wants and he doesn't really want to let him go in general. But like he also signed how many years was it? A 4-year deal?
Yeah.
Like right after that Champions League final. Wasn't very intelligent. It wasn't a very intelligent choice, because firstly, he's at that point in his career, he has that kind of opportunity to negotiate. He could just go up to them and be like, "No, I only want 2 years, or I want a release clause in case you guys are like go downhill." But I think somehow he believed that this was going to be it. He saw the Amazon documentary. He thought this season was going to be amazing, and then like nothing really happened. It literally just went downhill. Yes, he himself got amazing numbers, but the club in general didn't do too well. And it's just like, why? Like, what this club has done previously, and you know how this club has operated, especially with someone like Daniel Levy. Unless he believes that there was actually something like planned, or something like there was some form of that real direction, like we're gonna get all these players and do all these things. Unless he definitely believed, like he fully believed it, I don't see any reason for him to really sign a new contract. It didn't make sense to me.
I'm gonna counter it in a different way, but again, just looking at the live comments, I'm seeing people saying that Jermaine Defoe better than Kane, Berbatov better than Kane. I feel like these people need to front and need to come on and explain their view here, because that's just madness. That's pure madness. Unless you got some real rinky dinky logic to this, I'm interested. I think there's a lot of hate here, and I'm not even sure why. I want to hear what the hate is when it comes to Harry Kane. Going off on your point about he signed a contract, yeah. And when you look at Spurs, you're thinking, well, what have they traditionally done? Maybe the odd Carabao Cup in like 20 years. But they have shown signs of improvement. This was a team that were pushing in Champions League. It was kind of getting to a point with Spurs that you kind of just accepted that they were going to get top four. Maybe because the likes of Man United were such a Arsenal were, I don't know what they were doing, but they were kind of struggling.
They were in the gulag. They weren't even existing anymore.
Spurs were starting to be a team where you think, could they push for a title challenge? Is this the year that they start to do something? There was a period where that happened. Now you get to a Champions League final, so you're arguably, whether you like it or not, whether you don't. To be honest, I don't care if you do agree with the narrative. If you get to a Champions League final, you are one of the best teams in Europe. You've literally done what other teams, the best teams, haven't been able to do. So you get to a Champions League final. You've just invested in what is a fantastic stadium, real state of the art. So it looks like the club are going places. It's showing that there's investment there. You're improving as a squad. You've got a good core players now. It's perhaps not the best what they had compared to, as you said, the Kyle Walker days when Danny Rose was probably more at his peak. The Belgian, Vertonghen and
Belgian barrier.
Yeah, and Alderweireld, like they were quality. Dembele, like Christ, what must he be worth now? I think this guy was very underappreciated. I know we're kind of going slightly off subject, but what would he be worth as that box to box midfielder? Because very very underrated under the circumstances. But they did have that. They did have that team. But they still got likes of Son. They still got Kane. And one thing that you're seeing with their fullbacks is that they always seem to be good fullbacks at Spurs, and they still got Lloris. So
You
It
could
is there.
wait. Who's fullback? Reguilon's all right. Who's the right back for Spurs now?
Reguilon's decent.
Yeah, Reguilon's good. Yeah, who's the right back for Spurs?
Well, okay. Well, Sergio Aurier was good attacking.
Yeah,
Not necessarily good defending.
He was insane. He was interesting. Let's just say he was an interesting defensive wise. He was very interesting. That rugby tackle was a special rugby tackle.
But no, guys, definitely call in. Like, don't forget to hit the link. The link is in the live chat as we speak. Click on that, and you'll be coming in, and we can have this debate. Because as I said, I can see a lot of hate. Come on, have your say. No, people haven't been shy before when it comes to these types of topics. But I for one, I don't get it. As I said, like, how can you argue with a player who has scored 171 Premier League goals in 264 games? Like, what else can he do? It's like what people want is they'd rather see him score 100 goals but get more clutch moments in terms of like do it in fine like.
But the thing is, in the future, like when it's all said and done, like you don't always look back at just like you're not everyone's going to be like, oh yeah, he won a golden boot with 29 goals this season. They'll be like, oh well, he scored a lot of goals but he didn't really win anything. Like another example is Matt Letizia. Amazing player. Not a lot of people talk about him right now because his legacy has no trophies. He's got amazing like if you
the legacy is
him,
that he is a club legend. He's never going to be forgotten.
Yeah, he'll probably be a club legend, but like in the grand scheme of like football and football fans in general, like there will be a lot of fans right now that they will tell you who Beckenbauer is, and they won't be able to tell you who Matt Letizia is, or they'll be able to tell you who like Berbatov is, or like Park Ji Sung, but they won't be able to say who Matt Letizia is, and it's just like there's a reason for that. It's because like you could score all those goals, but when it's all said and done, if those goals don't amount to anything, then like what's the point? And like I guess I get he's our club like Spurs, who like I think in the past 20 years have only won one trophy, but like you have to.
Harry Kane, he will be recognised whether people like it or not. As we said, this guy is going to be England's greatest goal scorer. So that alone in itself, he's going to be remembered. Now, as it's pointed out time and time again, England haven't won anything since 1966. But there's been plenty of players who've gone on and still been recognised because of their England contribution. Now, I know when it comes to your Linekers or your Charltons or Rooney's, yes, club-wise they have done things, but we're talking about England at this point in its essence, and he will be remembered. He will be remembered as a prolific goal scorer.
Yeah, but then again, I think that's also because this is no offense to England fans or England, but their standard of what it means to be a legend is probably different than some other countries. Because there'll be some other countries who have who've been fortunate enough to have won multiple World Cups, Euros, like the Spain team they won 2 Euros and a World Cup. Like they probably look at some of the players now and think and like look down on them, and they've done quite well. Like the actual Spain players right now, people have other looks, like the fact that they've made the final of the Nations League and the semi-final of the Euros, getting knocked out to literally the team that won it. And but if right now, like someone like Pedri goes on and has a great career for Spain, but doesn't win a World Cup or Euros, you'll have fans that go, oh, but like Xavi did it, Iniesta did it, Busquets did it, Xabi Alonso did it. Like it's the same reason why Matt Letizia is a club legend, because he's at a club that's not historically been winning that much. But if you look at United, for example, I can get Ruud van Nistelrooy is a big example. Like he played for our club, but people will remember other players more. Like he's probably one of the most prolific goal scorers. The guy was like insane, but people
Mm,
will probably appreciate Andy Cole more because Andy Cole got us that treble. He was like important for us. He won like multiple leagues, stuff like that. I think
mm,
it's just because of the different standards. I think for England, especially if he wins the World Cup this year, that changes a lot for him, especially what he contributes to that World Cup. That changes a lot for him, and I think he'll be considered. He'll be like because winning a World Cup is very difficult to do. I don't think anyone appreciates that the World Cup's once every 4 years, and
mm.
against the best countries in the world.
Yeah,
There is no like there's no excuses at that point. You can't say like if he's able to win that, absolutely makes it different as captain. Like scoring the amount of goals he normally does, it would be absolutely even if he doesn't score goals. If he does his dropping deep and linking up play and setting up people like he usually does, absolutely. And like for example, it's Sterling that scores or Grealish.
yeah,
Like people are going to be like, wow, he did a lot. Like people love Liverpool fans love Firmino because he drops deep and does all that stuff. If Kane did that and England win, changes everything for him. But as of now, like when it's all said and done, and when at the end of his career, he's gonna look back and he's gonna be disappointed himself that he hasn't done more than he probably should have.
well, yeah, there probably was that element, and this is where he's probably, at his age, is starting to think, well, maybe I should be going to a Man City and whatnot, because ultimately that's when he will get those trophies. So those trophies will be going with the goals that he's
Yeah.
scored. I've seen a really interesting comment, and it's probably a one that's shared in terms of a narrative. There's no greats in the game who haven't won things. You could be considered a club legend, but trophies are essential. Yeah, yeah, I can understand that statement. But then, why is it that someone like Steven Gerrard is considered a Premier League great, getting into Hall of Fame when he hasn't won a Premier League?
I think that's different
That's
because
my challenge to that one on the
yeah,
flip side of it.
that's a whole different thing. That whole like Premier League Hall of Fame to me so far has been atrocious. To
Look,
me, it's been
yeah, but it's
atrocious
about
so far.
yeah, but it's about legacy. It's about legacy. So I get that it's opinion based.
Yeah, but last week we've even said like of all the things he's done in that Premier League, his biggest moment, like if you went up to most people, not even just not even just for football fans, just regular people, and asked them what's Steven Gerrard's biggest Premier League moment, and they'll tell you when he slipped, letting them bar through and costing his team that game that
Mm,
ultimately was quite pivotal in them winning, like losing that Premier League.
yeah,
And it's like, why is like to me it doesn't make sense how he's in like the Hall of Fame seems weird because the people they put in it aren't like a lot of them haven't won it, but then you've got people like Paul Scholes
yeah.
who's won multiple, like won a treble, won a double, done this, done that, and then he doesn't even get a shout so far, and it's just like I think there's probably a bit more at hand with like the politics of it or like how they want it to be set up, and it's just like, what are they really doing there?
I'm not gonna lie. I do kind of half agree with Arjan's comments from earlier, where if Kane was German or French, Spanish, I don't think he'd be getting the stick as much as being in England. But I think there is a criticism.
Wait, from who though?
There'll be a section of fans, shall we just say? Because I
No,
just
but the thing. But the thing is, it matters from who, because if you said if Kane was Spanish in La Liga and had the same career,
Mm.
he wouldn't be rated because they've seen the likes of Fernando Torres, who's come who even at his worst moments, his worst form, like has come in and won big things. If you said maybe like a good maybe, but like even Germany closer in terms of league,
Mm.
wasn't very good. In terms of his actual like club performances, wasn't very good. But when he stepped up for Germany, different
Yeah.
story. He would always come through and win things. So I'm thinking like I think it depends on the country you're talking about, because a lot of countries are very critical of their players. I've even heard Brazilians call out Neymar, and because he hasn't won a World Cup, which is crazy to me. But that's like that's their thing. Like it's, I don't think it's necessarily just an English bias. I think it's just because like they're
Well, I think
looking to him to make things
yeah,
happen.
I think ultimately the bias is a reaction to perhaps media hype.
Yeah.
I think when you look at media hype, so you know you look at other players like you like Rashford. Rashford is a big one on that. Bit of a media darling, and
Yeah.
is Raheem Sterling. That's potentially another good show
Yeah.
to do. But this is a guy when you look at his contribution to Man City, and this is a guy who's won trophies. Don't forget, been
Yeah.
a big part of their success. Probably arguably bigger than Kevin De Bruyne. Arguably, that's a debate.
Arguably,
That's a
that's a
debate for
whole other
another
debate.
time. But the fact is, Kevin De Bruyne will get all the flowers in the world,
Yeah.
and not many people will dispute what he's done, but people will say that they'll write off Raheem Sterling quite quickly because he potentially doesn't have the best first touch or clinical finish in him, but he's still a big part of that Man City success. So you even have that. You're starting to sort of see it with Grealish. I think there's a slow tide coming.
Yeah. I
Sancho, the
oh
criticism's there. The failed
he
compilations and everything
tanked.
like that.
They tanked him hard. It went
Mm,
literally from summer, all the media hype before Euros, before like, oh, he had a great season. He just won a trophy. He got like almost 40 goal contributions across all comps, and they were all the media hype. He was gonna be it. Oh, he was gonna be the guy. Euros came around. He barely played, and people were like,
yeah,
what was that? And then when he did play in the Euros, it wasn't that amazing. And then his start at United's been poor, so people are really on him now. We're
yeah,
like, which is really, I think for Grealish, I think because he had more hype as well, he had an extreme amount. People were like saying this is like next Gascoigne level player,
mm,
and people do need to understand though with City, it's weird because most of their signings, their first seasons aren't that amazing. Like Cancelo's first season wasn't very good. He was constantly being benched. Rodri's first season was worrying. So it's like I think people like for Grealish, I think it's just overreactions. It's just fans in general being reactionary to everything that goes on. Because as soon as if Kane wins a World Cup, they'll tout him as like the greatest English striker ever.
mm,
And then, but if he like misses a penalty in that final, they'll be like, oh, he's an absolute failure. And I think the media know that, so they just go with whatever like they know the fans are gonna think and manipulate the opinions and like push out like media stories based on what the fans actually think or
yeah,
what the fans are insecure about and what they'll like get a reaction from. So yeah, it is very media based.
yeah. Just for those who are watching and keeping half an eye on the AFCON final, because we we can't I know this is a show about Harry Kane, but we do have a final going on. 0-0 at this point, so it looks like this is going into extra time. So maybe a clutch
Oh
moment,
God.
or maybe, as far as Egypt is concerned, another penalty shootout, which they seem to be doing pretty well in.
If it goes to penalties, I'm sorry, Senegal, you've had your time. Who is that guy? That's a whole another thing. Like, I just want to know who he is. Sign him up because we need him. United need a keeper like that
They
because
need a
he'll
keeper.
definitely save something.
United do not need another keeper. They don't need another
No,
keeper.
we sell him and then we bring him only for penalties. Literally, we keep him on the bench. A penalty shootout, he's definitely playing. That's the only thing we'll keep him for.
Lord, yeah, okay, I get that.
A Willy
I get
Caballero,
that.
the
But
Egyptian Willy Caballero.
but guys, just so you're aware on the uncomfortable truth, we are looking to expand this, and the ministry as a whole. You know, we've done a number of shows which we've seen in the locker, you know, carnival football, but we will be expanding even more. We're getting an empire going. We will be dropping in on podcasts, and we will be hitting Twitter Spaces. You know, you've probably seen a number of shows hosted by Z. Sam and myself will certainly be more present on these Twitter Spaces, and this will be sort of these daily debates that we'll be having, just sort of in the moment, sort of reactions, etc. So be available for that one. You know, it's a football community. You know, have your say. You know, we had one quite recently. You know, was it about sort of Sané and Saka, and it develops. It just really develops. The great thing is that these things are fluid. But feel free to reach us. You've got the ministry on Twitter, on Instagram. You've got myself, which is now Jinky Knows, on Instagram and Twitter. Still got Doctor Who Sam 7.
Yeah.
You know, reach out. You know, if there's something that you're quite passionate about, or you want for us to talk about or consider, then, you know, literally follow up. Send us a message, because we will. You know, we want to do what fans are interested in ultimately. But Sam, sort of any final thoughts on Harry Kane, just to perhaps summarize?
I think for Harry Kane, just have to wait and see with him. Like, we can't judge him too harshly yet. There'll be some people that I know there is definitely some people that have some very strong opinions towards him about him being a failure. I've heard people say he's used the Jose quote, he's a professional at failure. But I think, like, we need to wait until it's all said and done. Like, goals are very important. He's a very good player. He's very wouldn't necessarily say talented, because I think him himself was more of hard work and good coaching. But he's definitely right now probably England's superstar. He's a very, very complete striker, good passer, good movement. He pretty much has it all. I just can is he able to get a club over the line, or a team over the line, to be put in that bracket that he wants to be put in? That's just my thing with him.
I think he's, and this is no disrespect to Spurs, I think he's been a victim of being at that club and just showing a bit of loyalty. Now I think he will eventually go. I think there will be a compromise, and he'll start getting trophies. And this is where the narrative is going to change pretty quickly. I don't even think he'll necessarily be a big part of winning those trophies. But
I don't think the narrative will change. I don't think it will change. I think that they'll say he only won it because he's at City. Even if he's the one that scores all the winning goals, they'll say he's only won it because he went to City. I think it's just a lose-lose for him. It's a lose.
Well, if that's the case, and this is, you know, people know that I'm not particularly shy when it comes to calling out sort of hypocrisy or inconsistency, then show that same energy for the other Man City players who've joined, because what were their careers before they were at Man City? And that's all I'll probably say to that one. But guys, you know,
as well.
I feel like there's going to be a Sterling show at some point, or certainly a Twitter space on it.
It has to be.
But I think that probably concludes tonight pretty nicely. We've got some really good shows coming up in the up and coming weeks. So be on the lookout for that. As I said, it's not just the uncomfortable truth now. You've got in the locker, you've got all the daily sort of wrap ups of weekends football. So be on the lookout for that. Your engagement is so key on that. You know, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. You know, let's grow this, and let's really like get this out to everybody. But guys, brilliant interaction tonight, and yeah, all the best, and I'll see you next week. Sam, thank you so much as always.
Thank you.
Take care. Mwah.
See you.